In a previous video, I discussed the meaning and nature of classical honor. While today we associate honor with integrity and think of it as an inner virtue, for thousands of years, honor consisted of having a reputation of judged worthy of respect and admiration by a group of equal peers who shared the same code of honor. Because we now equate honor with integrity, it can be difficult to think of it as something that's essentially amoral. But classical honor is simply a mechanism that motivates certain behaviors, checks others, and creates group identity and solidarity. In and of itself, it is neither moral nor immoral. Everything from military platoons to fire departments to criminal gangs and pirate crews operate by honor. And while honor itself is amoral, the particular honor code a group of men chooses to live by can have moral or immoral components. Honor codes, of course, have varied through time and around the world. So what kind of code should a modern man embrace? And are honor codes entirely relative, or are there components that have been consistent for thousands of years? Those are the questions I'll be answering today in this video. In the book, The Way of Men, Jack Donovan convincingly argues that if you want to get at the qualities that men have always respected in other men, you have to strip away all of the cultural, religious, and historical differences that obscure the picture. Instead, imagine yourself in a threatening environment, standing with a group of men on the perimeter of your territory that you're trying to protect. Out there in the darkness, there are other men, men who want to take your resources and valuables, your food, your women, your children. When you look at the men to the right and to the left of you, what qualities do you hope to see in them? What qualities give you confidence in your team? Donovan argues that in this kind of situation, the code of your group, the 4 standards every man needs to strive to live up to is simple: strength, courage, mastery, honor. He calls these the tactical virtues. So strength is simply raw physical prowess and power. It's the ability to dominate a human opponent or the forces and resistance of nature instead of being dominated, and to stand fast and immovable when pushed. Courage is the spirit, will, discipline to engage and employ one's strength when inwardly you're tempted to shrink, run, and hide. There are higher forms of courage, but at its most fundamental, it represents an outwardly demonstrated indifference to risk, pain, and physical danger. Mastery involves skill and adeptness in using the techniques and technology employed in hunting and fighting. It involves having a deft understanding of knowledge that saves lives and furthers the interest of your group. And now we're back to honor. Honor is the mechanism that pushes you to strive for excellence in strength, courage, and mastery. When you have honor, you don't engage in behavior that will weaken the group, you pull your own weight, and you have your brother's backs. Honorable men care about being manly because they know that their individual prowess and the tactical virtues bolsters the strength and reputation of their group as a whole, and that their group's reputation for strength deters attack from rival groups. Dishonorable men, on the other hand, evince indifference or hostility to these standards, which weakens the group and leaves it more vulnerable. Strength, courage, mastery, honor. These are the qualities men need to hunt and to fight, and they're qualities men need to embody and exercise to survive in a hostile environment. No culture, no art, no religion, no philosophy, no politics, no higher moral principles are possible if everyone in your group is dead. Now, the tactical virtues can be used for good or for evil. The reason we feel an attraction and have a kind of grudging respect for bad guys like gangsters and mafioso types we see in the movies is that even if we don't approve of their behavior or want to be just like them, it's because they definitely excel in the tactical virtues. They're not good men, but they're good at being men. So Donovan's code is amoral, and I think that's actually its strength. It's not dependent on varying cultural and religious mores. It's universal and cuts across time and place. Thus, I think the tactical virtues are unmatchable for forming a core of a man's honor code. They perfectly describe the anthropological nature of masculinity. But because most of us will live our lives within advanced civilizations rather than in hostile primitive situations, and because I think men are made of spirit and not just matter, I think it's important to build on this foundation and contemplate not only the basic code of manhood, but what might be an ideal code of manhood to strive for. I believe this ideal honor code seeks to combine both active and contemplative qualities. This combination constitutes what ancient philosophers called arete, strength coupled with virtue, bravery combined with character. In times of a crisis, a man must be able to fight and prevail. In times of peace, he must be able to care for his family, cultivate his mind, and serve his community and state civically. At all times, he must stand ready to serve whatever capacity he is needed. This to me is the ideal, circumscribing hard virtues and soft virtues into one whole. This is the complete man. He's a loving husband and father, loyal friend and brother, and yet would also not just be able to survive, but to completely lead in a disaster. And he could be called up by the military tomorrow to serve without breaking a sweat in boot camp. He's good at being a man, and he's a good man too. Unfortunately, we have too much division in these camps in our modern world. Intellectual types will deride the physically fit as meatheads and think real men are enlightened and sensitive, and that true manhood can be found exclusively in intellect and virtue. And the bro types, right, think knowledge and morality is for sissies and that men should be able to do whatever they wish in pursuit of a good time. Plenty of men throughout history have known better and have sought arete, true excellence in all aspects of life. None embodied the ideal better than President Theodore Roosevelt, who was a soldier, a hunter, a writer, a reader, and a statesman. He developed himself morally, physically, and mentally. He exercised both body and mind, and encouraged other men to do likewise. As he once told a group of young men, "When I speak of the American boy, what I say really applies to the grown-ups nearly as much to the boys. I want to see you game, boys. I want to see you brave and manly, and I also want to see you gentle and tender. In other words, you should make it your object to be the right kind of boys at home, so that your family will feel a genuine regret instead of a sense of relief when you stay away. And at the same time, you must be able to hold your own in the outside world. You cannot do that if you have not manliness or courage in you. It does no good to have either of those two sets of qualities if you lack the other. I do not care how nice a little boy you are, how pleasant at home, if when you are out, you are afraid of other little boys lest they be rude to you. For if so, you will not be a very happy boy, nor grow up a very useful man. When a boy grows up, I want him to be such a type that when somebody wrongs him, he will feel a good, healthy desire to show the wrongdoer that he cannot be wronged with impunity. I like to have the man who is a citizen feel when a wrong is done in the community by anyone, when there is exhibition of corruption or betrayal of trust or demagoguery or violence or brutality, not that he is shocked and horrified and would like to go home, but I want to have him feel the determination to put the wrongdoer down, to make the man who does wrong aware that the decent man is not only his superior in decency, but is his superior in strength. In other words, Theodore Roosevelt believed that honor was found not only in living a life of virtue, but in being brave and strong enough to defend that virtue if needed. That was the kind of man he respected. You know, truth is a fuzzy thing to a lot of people these days, and I know not everyone's gonna agree with my vision of the ideal code of manly honor. I ascribe to this idea of honor because whenever I read about it, things to describe it, or meet men who embody it, it enlivens my mind and fills me with what the Greeks called thumos, or spiritedness. When I find this congruence between reason and emotion, I take whatever it is, cherish it, and incorporate it into my own life. I promise you that as you strive to live a code of manhood that encompasses both strength and courage, and goodness and virtue, you will find true fulfillment and a sense of purpose and pride. Until next time, this is Brett McKay telling you to stay manly. Honor is based on the judgments of other members in the group. Therefore, the opinion of those members must matter to you. And they won't if you don't see them as